Coming up on Locked On NBA Daily, the Celtics lost to the Knicks last night at MSG, but was Jayson Tatum the ultimate winner? Meanwhile, disaster strikes Joel Embiid and the Sixers again. Plus, we look ahead to the biggest battles for playoff seeding and make some predictions. Locked On NBA Daily starts now.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. I'm Wes Goldberg here with Matt Moore and Haize. Got a great show for you today. Joel Embiid gets emergency surgery. We're going to talk about a heated Rookie of the Year race and some of the most important playoff seeding battles still left as we approach the final weekend of the regular season. But guys, we got to start at Madison Square Garden, where Jayson Tatum played for the first time last night since tearing his Achilles there in the playoffs last season. Celtics lost the game, but John Corrales over at Locked On Celtics says that Tatum was still the biggest winner of the night.
MSG kind of became a haunted house for him. There's a spirit in there, his spirit, that had unfinished business. He needed to walk off that floor. You know, the last time he was there, he was carried off. He was helped off and rolled out in a wheelchair and was in New York, stayed in New York, and had surgery the next day. Traumatic experience. He needed to go back there. He was very well aware of the spot on the floor. He knew exactly when he was standing on it, walking over it. He remembers everything very clearly. And to him, it was very, very important to go do that and to walk off that floor at the end and check that mental box. So when I say Jayson Tatum was a winner, man, I don't even care about the final score.
Haize, how did you think Jayson Tatum looked when he was back at Madison Square Garden, walking over that spot where the injury happened? And how big of a deal is it to kind of check that mental box that John was talking about there?
I think it's a really important. I think a big part of returning back from a major injury is the mental part of trusting your body again, right? And like being in that same spot could definitely trigger some of that. I don't think anybody would blame Tatum for that. To have 24 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal and a block is a pretty darn good night in regards to that. So I think as Jayson Tatum has with this whole recovery thing, he's attacked it every step of the way, and much respect for him to do it. And to have that moment at Madison Square Garden, I'm sure was great for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an awesome story. It's just the fact that he's back is great. That's terrific. You know, I don't think he played particularly well. He was 7 of 22 from the field and like a minus 16. Like, it's not like he had and they lost. It's an accomplishment for him. Every game is an accomplishment for him, man. Like, it's crazy he came back, and it's crazy he's come back and been as good as he did. It's funny because like the box score kind of says he was worse than what it felt like watching him, because I felt like he was like very physical and getting downhill. He had a great steal for layup and like all these types of things. So in general, like, I think the Celtics are such a great story this season of Mazzulla getting this team to come together and play defense despite all the guys that they lost, and the development that they got, and Jaylen Brown stepping up and proving that he can be a number one option on a team that's going to finish with the second best record in the Eastern Conference. And then Tatum coming back and showing what is an unprecedented return from an Achilles tear. It's just a great story, man. Like it or hate it, which Wes does. The Celtics are just an absolutely terrific story this season.
Look, I think there are some players who would go through what Tatum went through, and when they do eventually come back, would end up back at the scene of the crime and not even think twice, maybe not even be aware of it, right? Like, you're just so zeroed in on what it is that you're doing. Jayson Tatum has always been so aware of his story that I think he was incredibly aware. When John says like he's walking over the place where I'm like 100% this was like him kind of going through the motion picture of his career. I'm not even saying that to like make fun of him. I'm just saying like this is important for Jayson Tatum. And so I don't think it's being overstated when we say he checked that mental box, especially right before the playoffs when you can see this team potentially in the second round.
I'll pull back a little bit here. When Jamal Murray suffered his ACL tear in Chase Center in San Francisco, the game before that, after the game, when they were headed there next, my co-host on Locked On Nuggets, Ryan Blackburn, asked Jamal Murray, Jamal playing in Chase Center for the first time since the injury. Like, how are you feeling about that? And Jamal looked up and was like, I really hadn't thought about it. Thanks, Ryan. And that was like, I don't know. I think presence of mind is always kind of variable between players. Yep. So I'm sure Tatum kind of thought about it. It is like a big deal. One of the things I do think we overlook, right? And I always try and balance the analytical hard data part of me with the human soft science part of all of this. And one of the things that I really do think we don't consider enough is how traumatic injuries are to professional athletes. If you're an NBA player, that's an identity for you. Like, who are you? I'm a basketball player. Like, that's who I am as a person. And when that's taken away from you, it's devastating. And those moments afterwards, it's not just the pain. It's, you have so much uncertainty about what this means for your life. Are you going to be able to come back? Are you going to be able to play? Are you going to be able to compete at the same level? It takes so much to get there and to compete every night. And all of that goes into question. And then you've got months of rehab. I just think that all those things are really important to keep in mind when we talk about these athletes.
Players talk about the isolating part of the injury, rehab, and all that kind of stuff too all the time. Haize, I want to talk about the game itself. So the Knicks get the win. Josh Hart hits a pair of threes at the end, helps them pull away late. Jaylen Brown rested this game for the Celtics, so it's worth keeping in mind here. But what was your biggest takeaway from what could be another second-round matchup here?
I mean, I don't nothing different than what we've seen before. I mean, it's the same kind of matchups that we've seen from them before. The Knicks end up pulling this one out. I think Knicks do have some confidence against the Celtics based off how last year went. So, I think ultimately it's going to have to come down to Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, if they're both healthy, how well they're playing together, and how well the Boston Celtics bench really plays throughout a playoff series as well. That's going to be really important for them.
I actually think that the Knicks need to be very concerned about this game. So Boston shoots last night 16 of 43 from 3-point range. That's 37%. But you got Sam Hauser going 2 of 6. Derek White goes 0 of 6. Jayson Tatum goes 2 of 10 from 3-point range. Okay. Now look on the flip side of this. The first number I always look at in Knicks games is second chance points. That's the first number I always want to know is, did they kill you on the glass? Second chance points were 18-6 Boston. What? Points in the paint were 46-32 Knicks. Okay. Good. They were able to get downhill, made some buckets in the lane. Kata, I don't think, had like a great game in this one. That's fine. But these kind of like this game script does not support New York. Without Jaylen Brown, I think this is actually a pretty concerning. The Knicks shot 43% from 3. The Celtics shot 37%, but again, a lot of that is just lifted by Shireman going 6 of 7 in his 30 minutes. I really do think that this one is a little bit more concerning. Knicks Celtics is going to be very close if that's a second round matchup. It's going to be coin flip.
Listening to Locked On Celtics, like we just heard that clip from John. I mean, the game itself, the result was secondary to the Tatum story part of this. And I get it, right? Like to your point, Matt, like there was obviously some weird things that happened in this game. But even listening to Locked On Knicks, they're like, nice win, but let's not get too carried away on this. Josh Hart isn't going to score 26 points in most of these games, right? He goes 5 of 7 overall. Like I mentioned, the 2 big threes there at the end. That Towns-Brunson pick and roll is still a big deal. And at the end of the games, if the Knicks can keep these games close, it's been very evident time and time again. Get Jalen Brunson the ball, and he's as good, if not, he's probably the best guy in this series at just making something happen in crunch time. So that's, Hart got those threes off of the Brunson penetration and the kick out off those cat pick and rolls. So that's, to me, the biggest thing. Like, can the Celtics stop that? Also, again, I'm going to mention Jaylen Brown did not play in this game.
No. Yep.
All right, we're going to move along. We got a segment of the real question coming up. Specifically, Joel Embiid got emergency surgery. What does that mean for the Sixers' playoff chances? Plus, we're also going to look ahead to a heated Rookie of the Year race. All of that and more coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Financial stress is something that a lot of people are carrying right now, and it's not just about the numbers. It can affect your sleep, your relationships, and your overall mental health in ways that build up over time. And the reality is, struggling with money doesn't mean that you've failed. Sometimes it just means that you haven't had the right kind of support. It's something that I've thought a lot about, and how easy it is to put pressure on yourself financially without really talking about it. The stress that comes with trying to figure everything out on your own, the expectations that you feel to have everything quote unquote together, and how the pressure can spill into other areas of your life. Therapy isn't about financial advice. It's about working through the stress, the anxiety, and the emotions that come with it. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easier to get matched and start focusing on what you really need. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are nearly here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. Here's what I like about it. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments in games. It just makes the entire playoff experience a lot more engaging from start to finish. Right now, you can look at some of the odds for the teams for the play-in. You can get the Trailblazers right now at +1 in 26 to make the playoffs. They're in that 9-10 bracket right now. They could potentially move up this last weekend into that 7-8 bracket. They've been playing really well lately. We're going to talk more about the playoff battles in the third segment, but for now, head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, the best way to support the show. Subscribe on YouTube. We're Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts. It's time to ask the real question about a bunch of NBA headlines. Let's start with Joel Embiid. In a twist yesterday, it was announced that Joel Embiid underwent emergency surgery after being diagnosed with appendicitis a few hours before the Sixers game against the Rockets. Tough blow for Embiid and the Sixers, obviously, who are fighting for the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. But now it's much more likely that they're going to end up in the play-in tournament. Haize, the real question here is,
what is real?
Do we look at Joel Embiid's career and the ups and downs that he's had with his injuries and look at it as a disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, even though he's won an MVP and he's a great player when he's on the court, there's no doubt that you can look at it as a disappointment because the postseason success just hasn't been there. He's never healthy in the postseason at the right time. You know, the combined number of games that he's played in the last 2 years, I think, is less than 70. Like, he's not healthy when it matters the most. And that's always disappointing because, like, we've seen it. Like, half his face was paralyzed and he put up a 40-point game. Like, we know that Joel Embiid and what he's capable of. But it's disappointing because we've just never seen the right mix of the right team around him, with him being healthy at the right time, to ever get a real postseason run from him.
One of the things that's been really frustrating about this era, because of where the league is at, is I don't feel like we get clear answers on things. Like, we want definitive answers and we just don't get them. And Joel, I think, is like a good example of that. You know, I didn't want to be... So there's two questions here. Is his career disappointing? Yes, because of the injuries. Has he been disappointing? Sixers fans would say no. It's crazy. One, it's crazy the injuries and illnesses that he's had. Like Haize mentioned, the palsy. He gets appendicitis a week before that's crazy. How does this keep happening to this guy? He had like a fractured thumb and then suffered a concussion. Is one of the things that happened to him one year. Like, it's this entire thing of like the worst luck in the world for this guy. Like, I'm somebody who's criticized him before, and even I have to be like, the guy just has terrible luck. At the same time, there are these notable moments in his playoff history. I think especially 2023 when they had the Sixers. The Sixers had the Celtics on the ropes. And they couldn't close him out. And Embiid was terrible in the final game, and Tatum cooked him. Like, there have been these playoff failures. He hasn't had a run. Like, he hasn't ever had a playoff run. We look back at the era of the unicorns that was talked about so much, where it was Porzingis and Towns and Embiid. And then, like, Jokic, everyone's like, hey, what about Jokic? Jokic's obviously had the run, won a title. Porzingis has won a title. Towns has made 2 conference finals in a row. And then there's like Embiid, who's just like, he has like the 2023 MVP, which is the one that bothers me the most of all the MVPs of the last 10 years. But also Joel probably should have won in 2021. So it kind of cancels out. I think that Joel has had bad playoff series when he's been able to play, but he's also had such a nightmare series of disastrous medical conditions that I can't even begin to like kind of comprehend.
So this all starts in college at Kansas with him with the foot and the back issues that sidelined him for the basically the whole second half of his college year. He moves down to whatever third in the NBA draft, sits out that whole rookie year, and it was just always injuries with this guy. Now, it wasn't palsy, it wasn't appendicitis, but it's always been something with this guy. And you can look at his career and be like, based on how it started, the fact that he was even in the MVP conversation for half a decade is kind of a minor miracle. Like, you could argue that this was the best version of Joel Embiid possible, based on some of the injuries. But it's crazy what has happened. He's just flipping through the medical books of new stuff to get. It's absolutely crazy. You got to feel bad for him. Let's talk about the Rookie of the Year race that could come down to the final 2 games of the season. It seemed like Knueppel was pulling away for this award, but then this month we've seen Cooper Flagg post games of 51 points and 45 points for the Mavericks. Matt, here's the real question.
What is real?
Is this the tightest Rookie of the Year race that you can remember?
It doesn't feel like it, but it might be when I've kind of like looked back. I can't really remember one that has been this kind of contentious in terms of who should win that wasn't impacted by like injury, right? Like when Malcolm Brogdon went over Embiid, that was kind of one of those situations. Barnes over Mobley was pretty close. Cade missed a bunch of time. And that was like one of he only played 64 games that season. So that was like one of the issues. And Cade didn't really start to get it together until the back half of the season, but he was really good in the back half of the season. Like if that season had gone on like another 10 games, I think Cade might have actually caught up. It's hard to kind of remember another one that was like this, where you go back and really kind of find it being this nail biter, and both sides have the, how could it not be argument. Like, I understand why Mavs fans are like, he scored 50 points. He has more 40-point games as a rookie than anybody. How is it not Cooper Flagg? And I totally understand Hornets fans being like, hey, our guy is shooting 44% from 3 and contributes to an actually winning team. How is it not Knueppel? I think it is very close, Haize.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I think Khan should win it. I think doing it on a winning team is important. The efficiency that he has is just ridiculous. Like, the highs of Cooper Flagg's season are probably higher. We just look at the 40-point games and X, but like the consistency that Khan's had and how good he is and how good he's been in the clutch, like he's been such a floor raiser for that team. And I think the fact that it's been done on a winning team is the reason why it's a conversation. So it is a very tight race, and they both can win it. I don't know when's the last time we had co-rookie of the years, but this may be a time where that actually makes sense to go co-rookie of the year. They're both one's in the West, one's in the East. You can make that conversation for it.
Eastern Conference Rookie of the Year, Western Conference. I like it. To your point, Haize, I just pulled that up. Jason Kidd, Grant Hill were co-rookies in 1995. Elton Brand and Steve Francis co-rookies in 2000. But this was prior to us moving to a full media vote, right? Mm-hmm. It used to be voted on differently. Matt, to your point, the Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes race from a couple of years ago, that was the closest race since we moved to the current format. We have not had a tie. This might be the year where maybe we deserve a tie here. Last thing here, we're going to look ahead to tonight. The 4th place Cleveland Cavaliers are resting Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen for injury management in their game against the Hawks tonight, despite the fact that they still have a chance to move up to 3rd. Here's the real question.
What is real?
Haize, are the Cavs intentionally trying to stay in the 4 seed in order to avoid the Celtics in the 2nd round?
They could be. They could very well be. And I know we just talked about this yesterday, and I had mentioned that I don't think that they really want to try to go up against the Detroit Pistons in the 2nd round. So maybe they're strategically trying to place themselves that way. I don't know if it works out for them either way, but it seems like that may be the case.
James Harden's playing, Evan Mobley's playing, so I don't know that they're actually they're not fully. They didn't pull everybody. They're not punting on this game, and I do think that some of these teams are just kind of looking at it. Teams never think about seeding the way that we do. They're just like, yeah, I don't know, man. All the teams are good. We'll play whoever we play. I'm just trying to get to the end of the season healthy. They don't ever really consider it, I think, as much as they should, honestly. I think you should try and get into the 3 seed, because I'm just like, look, if you knock the Knicks into the 4 and then the Knicks play the Pistons and beat them, and you beat Boston, which is what you want to do, in the conference finals, you have home court versus the Knicks. Like, you should try and get home court as much as possible, because game 7s almost always go to the home team. So it actually really is kind of worth it consistently. I also just really worry about the hubris of being like, be careful what you wish for, as much as I am of the mind of, I think Detroit has a second round ceiling, and the Cavs are a bad matchup in that respect. But I am just like, man, I've seen a lot of times be like, yeah, you wanted us, come get it.
Don't get too cute here, Cavs.
Mm-hmm.
They play Washington final game of the season on Sunday. They could rest everybody, to your point, Matt. Like, you might not
and still win.
See harder than it and still win, right? We look at the games that you need to watch and the most important playoff battles after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Prize Picks. The playoff push is heating up and tournament hoops are here, and there's no better way to get in on the high-flying action than on Prize Picks. It's America's #1 sports pick app. Every bucket, every assist, every big moment means more when you're building lineups on Prize Picks. Prize Picks makes it simple to play. It's daily fantasy built around player projections, so you can stay locked into every game. My favorite part is how easy it is to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, which makes it quick and easy to jump in. You can mix different sports in the same lineup: basketball, baseball, hockey, and more. And features like early payouts let you lock in a win early, even if your players get off to a strong start. It's a fun way to stay engaged, especially during the most important stretch of the season. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily part of your daily routine and making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. The Locked On Podcast Network is a show for every team. Check out Locked On Celtics, Locked On Knicks, Locked On Sixers, Locked On Cavs for more on today's top stories. You're also going to want to check out Locked On NBA Game Night after tonight's games. Loaded slate. We're entering the final weekend of the regular season. Plenty of games that are going to be important in determining the final playoff standings. We can go through them. I don't want to bore everybody. I asked you guys before we started recording, what game, what playoff battle, what are you most interested in watching over this final weekend? Matt, we'll start with you.
The insanity of West 3-5. It's bonkers. Okay. The Nuggets lose tiebreaker to the Lakers. They win tiebreaker over the Rockets. The Lakers win tiebreakers over both the Nuggets and the Rockets. If the Nuggets go 2-0, they're in the 3 seed and they stay out of OKC's side of the bracket. OKC's resting everybody tonight, but Denver has now listed all of their starters as questionable tonight, except for Christian Brown. So it looks like the Nuggets are resting tonight.
Why does Christian Brown get the? Did he draw the short straw?
He's the youngest guy. You got to go out there, kid. So here's the deal. The Lakers looked like they were definitely going to fall to the 4, but then the Warriors, because they were locked into 10, were like, screw it, we're not playing anybody. So they lose last night. The Suns are resting Devin Booker tonight versus the Lakers on a 3-4 back-to-back. But everybody else is playing for the Suns. If the Suns win and the Nuggets win, the Nuggets are going to be 3 and they avoid OKC. But if the Nuggets lose to the Thunder, or if the Lakers win, the Spurs on Sunday, if they win, knock Denver out of their bracket and go, you and OKC can have a jolly old time second round. How about y'all go over there and we'll take the Lakers in our side of the bracket? Because the Lakers play the Jazz, who we know are losing that game. Like, it is a fascinating set of game theory over here with the Nuggets and the Thunder being like the Thunder are like, we don't want to play you guys in the second round. And the Nuggets being like, yeah, it's cool, but we're going to rest our guys too. And then the Spurs pretty clearly going to be like, because Victor Wembanyama is now had participated in shoot around and he's got to hit 65 games, got to play at least one. It's very likely the Spurs are going to be like, get the Nuggets out of our bracket. That dynamic, I think, is really fascinating going into the final weekend.
Haize, pop quiz for $1 million. Would you rather take the pop quiz on whatever Matt just said, or Adam Silver's anti-tanking proposals?
The anti-tanking proposal, because like Matt's a madman. Like, you're talking about conspiracy theories at a different level. But no, I mean, everything Matt said is on point. I'm going to give a very more simplistic answer in regards to this. I'm interested to see what happens with the Clippers and the Portland Trail Blazers and who finishes with the 8 seed and then the Western Conference play-in race. Like, I'm so interested in the Western Conference play-in race more than I thought that I would be, to be 100% honest with you, because I look at all those teams and like, you can make a case for just about every team, even though I know Matt hates the Portland Trail Blazers. Shaedon Sharpe could be making his return back as soon as tonight. Like, I just think that it's going to be a fun battle to watch those teams come out with it. The basketball, I think, is going to be close, and I think it's going to be fun basketball to watch, not like the upper echelon of playoff basketball, but I also think those games are going to be really fun. The West Conference play-in race is going to be real fun this offseason.
If we get the sneak peek at it tonight, right? Clippers against Blazers, to your point, it could be the difference. It could be literally the game that decides. This probably will be. So that's one of those must-watch games tonight. I'm watching Charlotte. They're in 9th right now in the Eastern Conference. They're still alive to move up to 6th. Now, the odds of that happening are really slim. They need a lot of help from Toronto, from Philadelphia. They need Orlando to split down the stretch. It is more likely that the Hornets end up at the 8th seed. But if they do end up with the 8th seed, right? Again, right now they're at 9. If they end up at the 8th spot, regardless of however the play-in works out, if they end up at the 8th seed, they play the Pistons in the first round, and we get Pistons Hornets in the first round. You know, there's going to be a lot of NBA Twitter hipsters being like, "Well, actually, I think the Hornets are going to beat. They're going to be the first 8th seed in a very long time to beat the 1 seed."
You are thinking too small, my friend. Raptors play Nets on Sunday. Let's go ahead and slot them up into the 5. Okay, let's go ahead and push them up there. Let's say the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell, but with James Harden and Evan Mobley knock off the Hawks tonight. There is a real possibility of a 4-way tie between 6, 7, 8, 9. Do you know who wins that, Wes Goldberg?
Is it Orlando?
It's Charlotte. Charlotte has division winner tiebreaker over Orlando and Atlanta, and division winner wins all multi-team ties. Charlotte would jump from 9 to 6 in that scenario. If the Raptors somehow lose to the Knicks and the Nets, which, come on, but if they were to do that, the Hornets could jump all the way to 5 if they win out.
That's crazy.
Yes.
So we could end up with Hornets versus Knicks or Hornets versus Cavs in the first round.
Yes. It is very much on the table. I would actually say that it is most likely at this point that we're actually going to get Cavs Raptors. We're going to get Cavs Raptors, Knicks, Hawks, and then 7-8 will be Hornets Magic or Sixers Magic, and then Hornets will have to play their way in. But I do think there are a lot of situations here where the Hornets do jump up, and I do think they are definitively the best team. If you ask me who's with Embiid's appendicitis, I think the best team in 5 through 10 is still Charlotte.
So Charlotte would need to lose out. Philly would have to lose out for Miami to move up. Not that you guys care.
No, I think Miami's actually stuck, right?
No, they have it. They would have basically everybody in front of them would have to lose out, and they would have to win out, and they can move up a little bit, but who cares? No, Charlotte right now, according to playoff status, the Hornets have a 3% chance with the 6th seed and a less than 1% chance of that crazy scenario you just laid out and ending up at the 5 seed, 5% chance at the 7th seed, but a 21% chance at the 8th seed. And like I said, there's some really interesting stuff if they even move that up.
As a kind of a reminder for folks, 7 seeds have never failed to get out of the play-in tournament. They are 10-0 in making it. 10 seeds are 9-1 and being eliminated. So they're 1-9 and making it into the playoffs. The one exception being last year's wretched Miami Heat team that broke that kind of a streak. But 8-9 is basically a coin flip, which I think is interesting because you would think the 8s would have a much better shot because they get 2 shots at it, but they don't. You lose that first play-in game and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're not actually that good if you can't get in on the first try.
Yeah, you get punched in the face, you wobble, and then the other team's coming off that you're playing is coming off of a win. They're feeling pretty good, and so that's kind of the weird way that it works out. So a ton of games here Friday night. Reminder to people: no games on Saturday, and then we get our final sprint on Sunday. I'm sure NBA Game Night will have all of the updates after Friday night's games on the playoff scenarios for Sunday. You're going to want to stay locked in here to the Locked On NBA channel. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to the Locked On NBA Daily, wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Next week, we've got some awards. We've got the play-in tournament. The playoffs are nearly here. Very exciting. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you back here next week on Locked On NBA Daily.